With the upcoming release of the complete collection for Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, it got me thinking. EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a highly underrated game. So much so that I dived back into the game for a few rounds over the last week or two and experienced some easy nostalgia, but I also wanted to see if I felt the same way about the game. Spoiler, I still do. I would best describe Star Wars Battlefront 2 as an arcadey battlefield title. Each of the classes has these 3 abilities in the bottom right that are on cooldown. No ammo, meaning that you can just blast away to your heart's content and have a lot of fun there. The movement and shooting feels great, and I can't believe how well it's aged. I suppose good combat never truly gets dated, maybe just the player base, because trying to get into a game these last couple of weeks has been a little bit rough because not many people are actually playing the game. The only real balance issue has been the case in all of the Star Wars Battlefront games. It's just how well they've actually done it, and it comes down to the hero and villain characters. The elite tier enemies are fine, and you will run into things such as the Wookiee Warrior, Death Trooper, Arc Trooper, etc. But they are the higher tier soldiers, so you can kill them pretty easily. The issue is when you get the heroes and villains, and it's partly a balance issue, partly player-based. There are certain abilities within the game that heal players. This also applies to characters as well, meaning that if you simply hid and waited for one of these, you can regain health, and you can basically stay as a character for the entire match. Why is this an issue? 2 heroes are allowed per team to be active at one time, meaning you could go the whole match without ever getting a chance to play a character. You see, the game works off battle points, which means when you get kills, assists, do objectives, earning 4,000 gives you access to a hero. A little bit more if you want to get like an elite tier enemy. But if you're a good player and you don't die, you don't spawn as often, meaning that you can't pick a character. Meaning that majority of the time you get those 4,000 points, but you end up just sitting in the spawn screen waiting and spamming out a hero until they become available, similar to how you do in all of the other Battlefield games. Usually, the first 3 minutes of a match is vitally important because you want to get as much points as you can in that time and then die to get access to the hero. It doesn't even matter who gets access to the character. It could be a good or a bad player, but with a super OP character, you'll never get to play them because you aren't able to ever spawn with them, or you don't spawn at the right time, and it can kind of diminish the fun a little bit. That being said, certain characters are a hell of a lot of fun to play. Boba Fett flying around. I love using the bounty hunter, can't remember his name, the main chick from the campaign that you get to play as well. Like the shooty characters, even though you die a little bit quicker than the lightsaber specific characters, you're able to chalk up a lot of kills because you can hit things from range. It also plays into another issue with certain characters having lightsabers, meaning that they can just stave off a lot of damage unless players surround them, which obviously plays into the team element of the game, but sometimes that isn't really an option. And if there was a time limit on the heroes, then I think it would be a lot better to be able to counteract when you're able to use them, because sometimes you can die with a hero and then get it at the right time and get the hero straight away again because you already have enough points, which is uber frustrating because you can go like a whole match without being able to play as the key fun part, which is what made the iconic games so fun. Now, I have been sat here complaining about this specific element of the game, but the game is incredibly tight. It's fast-paced, and most importantly, that cardinal thing that people seem to avoid at the moment, it's fun. It's just super fun. I think I've always felt this way about Battlefield 2. Even with the launch that we had, which was one of the worst we've seen in recent memory, I still put in 100 hours worth on Xbox, and then I've obviously moved over to PC. I don't get to keep my progress, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I've still put in a decent chunk of hours, and sadly it's overshadowed by its launch and people never really jumped back in. The launch of Star Wars Battlefront 2 will forever be etched into gaming history at this point. The loot box pay-to-win mechanics hit a breaking point and ruined everything that this game could be, as the devs had to spend a lot of that time ripping all of that out of the game to put in a progression system which didn't really feel that satisfying anyway, and a lot of people had already got the extra high tier abilities that you could get for your progression. And even though I played during that time, it was a real shame because I felt like I was playing a really fantastic game in terms of its multiplayer, and the gameplay was undermined by the drama surrounding it. It 100% hurt it because they had some great things that they added to the game. The multiple movie tie-ins, Rogue One and the Secret Trilogy, more maps and modes, especially Ewok Hunt, which is absolutely fantastic. I haven't played too much of it, but I know a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of clips of just scare, like horror moments from these bears with sticks, which is just something that you don't necessarily see in a lot of games at the moment. But first impressions obviously mean everything, and that is obviously still apparent in today's releases, and it's still apparent in Star Wars Battlefront. I suppose I just have this thing for games that launch badly and then get better over time, and this one is kind of special because I started streaming and creating content for the first time in a long while back in 2017 when this launched. Now here I am talking about the game almost 7 years or so later. But yeah, back in 2017, playing like heroes versus villains with a bunch of people on stream and just jumping into Galactic Assault every single day, it was just simpler times. Star Wars Battlefront 2 has also aged wonderfully as well, from at least a visual perspective. DICE has this ability to make stunningly visual games, and if you compare the visuals of some of today's games to this, it still looks incredible, right down to how the weather effects affect the armor, the bouncing of light off like the clone armors or the stormtroopers, the weather and sound effects, the explosions and the big scale things that they are doing. Even the commentaries and the voice lines from all of the different characters are really good, especially if you're a fan of the Clone Wars. There's a couple of voice actors in here that were in the Clone Wars as well, especially the Clone Trooper voice actor that does those within the Clone Wars series, and also I think it's the same actor that played Boba Fett that does the voices in the actual films, but I don't think he does it here. And it's actually a real shame that we're never going to see a Battlefront 3 from DICE because of all the stuff with EA that I've reported on over the last couple of weeks. And the problem with that is I can't think of any other developers that are going to be able to do a large-scale combat like this other than DICE. There is a few developers out there that could potentially do it. DICE is the only one that I can really think of that can do these types of things, or has at least attempted it in more of like the AAA market. There is like Squad that has had a couple of mods. They've also done a mod for Halo as well that's turned like Halo 3 into a Battlefield style game as well with some of the vehicles and such. But that's just obviously modding for a big developer that has a big budget. It's also quite of a risk right now. Maybe something with Epic Games, like there's the combination of Disney and Epic Games that they've put together right now. We may see something there, but I think that we might not see it for a while, or if ever, for the pipe dream that is Star Wars Battlefront 3. It's kind of crazy to me that Pandemic Studios, that has been shut down for quite a while, was responsible for the original games, and they kind of nailed it back then. And I am very excited for the upcoming collection, but there's something about the big first-person element of this game that I still hold a lot of love for, and I still think it's highly underrated. I still feel it's a lot of fun to play now. The servers are a little bit of an issue now because not many people are playing, so it means that there's not many games going ahead, which is kind of annoying. I haven't tried it on Xbox at all, so maybe it's a little bit different there, maybe even on PlayStation as well. But I don't think it'll ever live up to the original, but I will still hold it in high regard as one of the better Star Wars games, purely for gameplay and multiplayer alone, not necessarily all the other stuff that came with the launch. We can hope and we can pray that we're going to get a Battlefront 3, but I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. So the best we have is this game, and the next best thing that we have is the complete collection that is coming out next week. So I'll be jumping into that and obviously playing a whole bunch and seeing how it holds up, and I think a lot of people are going to be very excited for it. Maybe even if it's like 10,000 to 20,000 players on PC, I think that's going to be something that a lot of people will continue to do, especially the big modding community, which there's rumors around, so they'll be able to keep that going. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 is highly underrated, people. What do you think down in the comment section? Have you got any memories of this game? I'd love to know and discuss about it. And as always, if you've enjoyed the video, leave a like on it, subscribe if you're new, and turn on the notification bell as always. And this has been It's Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.